President John Dramani Mahama. And pursuant to Article 179 of the Constitution and the other paper and the standing orders of the House, Order 1952, and today's order paper, Item 7. Mr. Speaker, I present to you the budget statement and economic policy of government for the year ending 31st December 2025. Right Honorable Speaker, today marks a moment of great significance, and I have the singular honor to stand before this House to present, on behalf of His Excellency, President John Dramani Mahama, following his extraordinary mandate, the maiden budget of his new administration. Mr. Speaker, I'm deeply grateful to His Excellency the President for entrusting me with this responsibility. Respectfully, Mr. Speaker, I also submit to this House the following statutory report as required by law. The 2024 annual report on the petroleum funds, in line with Section 48 of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2011, Act 815, as amended, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also submit the 2024 Energy Sector Levies report in accordance with Section 6 of the Energy Sector Levies Act 2015, Act 899. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the 2024 annual report on the collection and utilization of the African Import Union Levy, in line with Section 7 of the African Union Import Levy Act 2017, Act 952. Right Honorable Speaker, with this budget, I will also be seeking a review of the following act to support the policies of government aimed at stabilizing the economy and promoting inclusive growth. The first will be an amendment to the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2011, Act 815. The second will be the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund 20, Act 870. And the second will be an amendment to the Mineral Income Investment Fund Act 2018, Act 978. The Speaker, I will also be seeking amendment to the Energy Sector Levies Act 2015, Act 899. I will be seeking amendment to the Ghana Cocoa Board Act, Act 1984, the PNDC Law 81, as amended. The Speaker, that's not all. I will also be seeking amendment to the Earmark Funds Capping and Realignment Act 2017, Act 947, the Ghana Procurement Authority Act 2003, Act 663, as amended in Act 914. Speaker, I will be seeking amendment to the Ghana Education Trust Fund Act 2000, Act 581. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I will also be seeking amendment to the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018, Act 982, and incorporating into a comprehensive Public Financial Management Act. Mr. Speaker, I forgot to add that I will also be seeking amendment to the Revenue Administration Act 2016, Act 915. So, Speaker, we remain committed to the pursuit of our 24-hour economic policy of stimulating economic growth and job creation. Right Honorable Speaker, this policy will contribute to addressing Ghana's structural economic challenge by creating an integrated, efficient, and increasingly export-driven industrial economy that fulfills the utilization of our national resources, capital, and labor power. Right Honorable Speaker, will be presenting the 24-hour economic policy to Parliament in due course. In this respect, Mr. Speaker, the Labour Act, the Ghana Investment Promotion Act, and other enabling legislations will be reviewed accordingly. Mr. Speaker, as part of the effort to stabilize our city through foreign exchange and gold reserve accumulation, I will also submit a bill to provide a legal framework for the establishment of the Ghana Gold Board for the consideration. Leader briefly, and now Mr. Speaker, as Minister responsible of Finance. Right Honorable Speaker, the invaluable experience I gained in this chamber has shaped my perspective, sharpened my focus, and prepared me for the task at hand. I fully commit to supporting His Excellency the President to fix the economy of Ghana. I take this opportunity to extend my profound gratitude to the good people of Ejumako and Yanesiam, my constituents, and to you, Mr. Speaker, and members of this House across the aisle for your unwavering support throughout my years in this chamber. Mr. Speaker, this esteemed House is a sanctuary of rigorous debate, principled cooperation, and at times constructive disagreement, all in the pursuit of greater good of our beloved country. I look forward to working with you, Right Honorable Speaker, and my That was to achieve through the painful sacrifice of domestic bondholders, external creditors, and taxpayers, such as the primary balance on commitment basis, inflation, social protection, and others, as at end 2024, are likely missed. Right, Honorable Speaker. In addition, all structural benchmarks due by end December 2024 are also missed. So, Speaker, inflation worsened in the year 2024 from 23.2% in the year 2023 to 23.8% in 2024. So, Speaker, the 2024 end period inflation also exceeded the budget target of 15% by 8.8 percentage points and the IMF central target of 18% by 5.8 percentage points. Unfortunately, this has triggered a discussion with IMF under the Monetary Policy Consultation Clause. Right, Honorable Speaker, the primary balance on commitment basis worsened from a deficit of 0.2% of GDP in the year 2023 to a deficit of 3.9% in the year 2024. Mr. Speaker, the primary balance on commitment basis target for 2024 was a surplus of 0.5% of GDP. Sadly, the previous government recorded a deficit of 3.9 percentage point of GDP. This presents challenge that they face. Mr. Speaker, as part of the measures that MDAs have awarded contract to the tune of a minimum 194 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, this amount represents 16.5% of GDP as at the end of 2024, with the road sector again alone accounting for 100 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, most of these contractors and most of these contracts were awarded without commencement certificate and authorization. Mr. Speaker, this is in blatant violation of the Public Financial Management Act 921. Right, Honorable Speaker, let me now update you on our debt service obligations. Mr. Speaker, apart from the huge arrests and commitment, our fiscal situation is further complicated by huge bullet debt service and constrained fiscal financing options. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the government option to finance the budget is limited to only Treasury bill market following the debt restructuring program. Moreover, the forthcoming debt service of both domestic and Eurobond debt obligation will have profound implications for fiscal sustainability and balance of payment. Right, Honorable Speaker, domestic debt service alone, programmed for the next 4 years, is 150.3 billion Ghana cedis. So, Speaker, simply put, the interest and principal payment that will be due for payment beginning now for the next 4 years is 150.3 billion Ghana cedis. This represents 11.6% of GDP in domestic debt service obligation alone. The Speaker, of this 150 billion Ghana cedis, 73.3% of this 150 billion Ghana cedis is due for payment in the year 2027 and 2028. Right, Honorable Speaker, 2027 alone, the domestic debt service that will be falling due will be 57.6 billion, and 2028 will be made to call upon to pay 52.5 billion Ghana cedis. So, Speaker, the debt service obligation of 2027 and 2028 are major harms. These harms are cancerous and pose significant risks to the economy of Ghana. But, Mr. Speaker, touch wood, we shall fix it. We shall fix it. Mr. Speaker, our debt service obligation of this financial year is equally burdensome with significant harms. February, we were called upon to pay 9.9 billion. July, we'll be paying 6.2 billion, and August, we'll be paying 10.1 billion, all this year. Right, Honorable Speaker, the fiscal challenges are further compounded by the significant short-term Treasury bill that we also inherited. So, Speaker, these obligations, totaling about 111.1 billion Ghana cedis, requires rollover week in, week out, placing additional pressure on cash flows and liquidity requirements. Mr. Speaker, beyond the domestic maturities, Ghana faces significant external debt service obligations for the next 4 years. The next 4 years will be made to call upon to pay $8.7 billion US dollars, representing 10.9% of GDP, with heavy concentration again in the year 2027 and 2028. Again, Mr. Speaker, 55% of this external debt service will be due in the year 2027 and 2028. Right, Honorable Speaker, in the year 2027, we'll be made to pay $2.5 billion US dollars, and 2028, we'll have to again pay $2.4 billion US dollars. Right, Honorable Speaker, it seems the debt restructuring undertaken by the previous administration was designed to make 2027 and 2028 debt repayment heavy, sadly. So, Speaker, I don't know how come we sat and allowed that design to happen. So, Speaker, that is cancerous. But I can assure you, we will fix it. Mr. Speaker, in spite of all this upcoming domestic and external debt service obligation, no buffers were built to cushion this unprecedented debt service burden. Mr. Speaker, as of 7 January 2025, the debt service reserve account, the sinking fund in dollar, has a balance of $64,000. Mr. Speaker, when we were leaving office, we left behind $319 million in that same account. Mr. Speaker, the debt service reserve CD account had an amount of 143 million Ghana cedis. Right, Honorable Speaker, when we were leaving office, the balance was 430 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, I now move you to stalled project. Mr. Speaker, due to the bilateral creditors' debt restructuring that is ongoing and the taking by previous administration, a staggering number of 55 projects have been halted. Mr. Speaker, this leaves a massive amount of $3 billion US dollars in undisbursed loans and about $300 million in outstanding interim payment certificates, IPCs. Some of these projects include the famous Efie Kwanta Hospital, the Kejetia Market Phase 2, the Bolgatanga Boko Pomakrom Road, and the Tema Aflawa Road project. Delayed payment and demobilization from site could result in cost overruns of over $1.1 billion US dollars. Right, Honorable Speaker, the IMF-supported program imposed an annual disbursement ceiling of $250 million for all bilateral loans that are being restructured. This constraint means that it will take a minimum of 12 years to complete all of this stalled program. So, Speaker, unfortunately, as a result of the debt restructuring, all this stalled program, working with the IMF will take a minimum of 12 years if we decide to go business as usual. We'll be engaging in the coming days to resolve this challenge. Speaker, I now take you to the famous energy sector fiscal risk. Mr. Speaker, the increase in energy sector financing shortfall is posing significant risk to the Ghanaian economy. In the year 2024, the Ministry of Finance supported the energy sector with payment of about 20.8 billion Ghana cedis. These resources could have been used for job creation and other development programs, like roads, schools, and hospitals, if the sector inefficiencies were resolved. The Speaker, a recent exercise conducted by the Energy Sector Financing Modeling Team under the Energy Sector Recovery Program, ESRP, revealed that the business-as-usual energy sector financing shortfall has increased significantly to about 35 billion Ghana cedis for the year 2025 alone, even after spending in excess of 20 billion cedis in the year 2024. Right, Honorable Speaker, more importantly, the shortfall for the period 2023 to 2026 has been estimated to be about 140 billion Ghana cedis. The Speaker, this amount is 20 times more than the allocation for goods and service for all MDAs in the year 2025. The Speaker, in addition, the energy sector shortfalls, which relate to current invoices that are largely unpaid legacy arrests due to the independent power producers. So, Speaker, the legacy arrests stood at $1.73 billion US dollars as at end 2024. Right, Honorable Speaker, the cocoa sector, which has long been the backbone of the Ghanaian economy, is sadly on its knees, owing to gross mismanagement. Mr. Speaker, the sector faces declining output and financing challenges, characterized by unsustainable debt, rollover cocoa contract risk, and quasi-fiscal expenditures, including cocoa roads, which, Mr. Speaker, is a non-core function of the Ghana Cocoa Board. Right, Honorable Speaker, cocoa production has dropped by nearly 50% over the past 3 years. In the year 2023-2024 crop season, Cocoa Board was unable to supply 330,000 tons of cocoa to meet its contractual obligation. This sharply decline has affected the finances of Ghana Cocoa Board. This undersupply has been rolled over for subsequent years for the new administration to pay. So, Speaker, These 2023 to 2024 forward sales contracts, locked in at lower prices than the current market rates, have resulted in revenue losses of about $840 million for both Ghana Cocoa Board and the impoverished cocoa farmer. Right Honorable Speaker, the rollout cocoa contract has resulted in a loss of $495 million for the year 2025 alone. Mr. Speaker, these are the risks in relation to the market price differentials and, as a result, costs causing the smuggling that we see with Ghana Cocoa Board. Mr. Speaker, Cocoa Board outstanding debt amount to 32 billion Ghana cedis, of which 11.92 billion is due to be paid in the year 2025. Outstanding Cocoa Road contracts reached 21 billion Ghana cedis, approximately $1.3 billion in the year 2024, of which only 4.4 billion has been accounted for in Cocoa Board's finances for the year 2025. Mr. Speaker, the financial sector still struggles, even after spending 30.3 billion in the financial sector cleanup exercise by end 2024. This includes 26.9 billion Ghana cedis after spending this amount in the banking sector. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the financial sector is still struggling, and the financial sector will require 10.45 billion Ghana cedis to address the financial sector legacy issues and emerging risk. In addition, Mr. Speaker, an amount of 2.2 billion Ghana cedis is required to fully capitalize the National Investment Bank and the Agricultural Development Bank of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I will also update the House on the fiscal performance for the year 2024. Mr. Speaker, the fiscal performance in the year 2024 was characterized by improved revenue collection, but with significant expenditure overruns. In addition, large arrests were accumulated over the period. Mr. Speaker, in summary, the provisional data shows the following. 1. Primary balance on commitment basis, the key fiscal anchor of the IMF program, worsened from a deficit of 0.2% of GDP at the end of 2023 to a deficit of 3.9% of GDP at the end of the year 2024. This is 4.4 percentage points worse than the target Mr. Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, it is what it is. The state of our economy is troubling, but we will fix it. Mr. Speaker, touch wood, we will fix it. But Mr. Speaker, it will require some sacrifices, truthfulness, transparency, and discipline. We will take strong measures to confront the situation head on. Mr. Speaker, the sacrifice must come from all stakeholders, beginning with the government. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President has led the charge by significantly downsizing his government from the Elephant 88 to the Umbrella 60. Mr. Speaker, he has also reduced the number of his government ministries from the Elephant 30 to the Umbrella 23. Mr. Speaker, as part of the contribution setting agenda, organized labor has followed suit by working with government and employers association to agree on a modest 10% increase in base pay and minimum wage for the year 2025. Right Honorable Speaker, on behalf of His Excellency the President, I would like to express my profound gratitude to organized labor and employers. Mr. Speaker, ordinary Ghanaians have also sacrificed by enduring the negative impact of severe currency depreciation since 2022. Hyperinflation, high food inflation, principal and interest haircut, soaring interest rates, among others. Mr. Speaker, it is now time for the people's representative, the members of Parliament, and the judiciary to also follow suit. I would like to call on all other stakeholders, including the business community, faith-based organizations, academia, and civil society to support this national call. So, Speaker, our immediate task is to reset our nation, to restore good governance, reduce the excruciating suffering of our people, and set our country on a trajectory of economic transformation. So, Speaker, our vision is to build a prosperous and a democratic state, anchored on the principles of freedom and justice, providing equal opportunities for all. So, Speaker, through this vision, we will work together to build the Ghana we want. Right Honorable Speaker, the resetting agenda will be anchored on the following. 1, restoring hope in our democracy, renewing trust in public officials, and helping every Ghanaian attain their full potential. Offering a trusted hand to the vulnerable, particularly women and youth, and creating a new Ghana for coming generations. And finally, stimulating demand by patronizing made-in-Ghana goods under the 24-hour economy. Mr. Speaker, today I came to this chamber with made-in-Ghana bag, signifying, Mr. Speaker, with made-in-Ghana bag, Mr. Speaker, I would like to first present, Mr. Speaker, they don't know that in Ghana we sew suit. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to first present the government's immediate and strong measures to address the current challenges we are confronted with, followed by the medium-term vision, policy objectives, and targets. Right Honorable Speaker, consistent with Section 14 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 911, the fiscal policy objectives of this government is to support the economic transformation agenda to ensure the macroeconomic stability of the country within the macroeconomic and fiscal framework. More specifically, the fiscal policy objective of the government include the following: rationalizing government expenditure and eliminating wasteful expenditures, optimizing domestic revenue mobilization through broadening of tax base, increased non-tax revenue collection, adopting enhanced tax compliance measures, and modernizing the tax administration through digital technology. Mr. Speaker, we will also increase the share of domestic expenditure to spur economic growth and job creation. We'll be reducing public debt to sustainable levels and adopting prudent debt management practice to support debt sustainability. Reducing the fiscal deficit progressively in accordance with the amended Fiscal Responsibility Act to promote fiscal and debt sustainability. And Mr. Speaker, restoring confidence in the Ghana economy. Right Honorable Speaker, our approach will be to foster economic growth, accelerate job creation, reduce inflation, and stabilize the cedi. To achieve this, it is crucial that we establish the macroeconomic stability and ensure debt sustainability. Mr. Speaker, we are confident that by prioritizing these fundamental elements, we can cultivate an environment where individuals can prosper and businesses can thrive in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians, through the recent National Economic Dialogue, have expressed a clear desire for fiscal deficit and public debt to be reduced through cuts in government spending rather than through only tax measures. We wholeheartedly agree, Mr. Speaker. Going forward, we will tailor our expenditure to align with our fiscal realities. After all, whoever pays off their debt gets rich. Mr. Speaker, we are poised to implement a three-pronged approach to achieve our objective, beginning with this budget immediately. First will be to recalibrate the fiscal adjustment, and we believe that by prioritizing spending-led fiscal adjustment can initiate a positive cycle. Fiscal adjustment can initiate a positive cycle in a way that first, it will help lower inflation and curb depreciation of the cedi. Secondly, it will lessen government reliance on borrowing, which in turn will reduce the crowding out of private sector and lower interest rates. Lastly, this approach will ease the strain on monetary policy, allowing the central bank some greater flexibility to reduce monetary policy rates, ultimately resulting in lower bank and lending rates. Mr. Speaker, the second approach will be to deliver a shock therapy. Mr. Speaker, we are implementing a form of shock therapy to the economy by making significant spending cuts this year, thereby reducing the government financing needs and front-loading fiscal adjustment. This is the down payment for our policy credibility and credit worthiness. Right Honorable Speaker, our third approach will be to restore fiscal responsibility. By moving forward, we will enhance public financial management by empowering ministers to effectively manage their budget on their own, ensuring strict compliance with the commencement certificate. Mr. Speaker, we'll be passing and enforcing a revised Fiscal Responsibility Act, and finally, we will enforce the sanction regime for non-compliance of the Public Financial Management Act. Mr. Speaker, in pursuit of the overarching macroeconomic objectives, the following macroeconomic targets have been set for the year 2025. Overall real GDP growth of at least 4% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, not less non-oil real GDP growth of at least 4.8% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, end period inflation rate of 11.9%. Mr. Speaker, primary balance on commitment basis of a surplus of 1.5% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, gross international reserves, including oil funds and encumbered assets, to cover not more than a minimum of 3 months of import. Mr. Speaker, to address inflation, government will implement a number of measures to complement the Bank of Ghana and monetary authorities. Mr. Speaker, the measures to stabilize the exchange rate include the following. We will be establishing the Ghana Gold Board to enhance the generation of accumulation of forex to support the stability of the Ghana cedi. The Bank of Ghana will continue to implement its FX forward auction to support the stability of the Ghana cedi. Government strong fiscal consolidation through the reduction in public sector spending and the fiscal deficit will reduce the pressure on the exchange rate. Mr. Speaker, our import substitution drive under the 24-hour economy involving domestic production of key products originally imported will reduce import and related FX requirements, boding well for FX stability. Right Honorable Speaker, we are addressing the inflation problems through a number of measures, including the following. First, specific interventions, including the Agriculture for Economic Transformational Agenda, is expected to increase food production and reduce food inflation. Government will implement policies that target items with large weight in the CPI basket, such as transportation and utility, to reduce their prices. Mr. Speaker, Our aggressive fiscal consolidation drive, aimed at reducing the fiscal deficit and borrowing, will contribute significantly to reducing inflationary pressures. Right, Honorable Speaker, our strategy to improve exchange rate stability will reduce imported inflation and fuel prices. Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Ghana will maintain an appropriate monetary policy stance and use its liquidity management interventions to support the disinflation process. Right, Honorable Speaker, to achieve our expenditure-led fiscal consolidation objectives, we will implement the following measures. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to